Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss something that is long overdue, but I finally have the mental space and the peace in my house to thoroughly go through with you guys. So today we're going to talk about feline infectious peritonitis, aka FIP. So, feline infectious peritonitis, or FIP, is a fairly uncommon disease that arises from a mutation in the highly common feline enteric coronavirus, or FECV. This is not like the human coronavirus. It is different, and it's for cats only. To understand FIP, we have to understand FECV, or the feline enteric coronavirus, just a little bit more. FEC is a virus that infects the GI tract of kittens and cats. This virus can cause diarrhea and some other clinical signs, but in general is not considered to be lethal like FIP. Infecting kittens and cats shed the virus in their feces, and the virus is spread via what is called the fecal to oral route. Yes, that is what you think it is. It's how a lot of things are spread. Welcome to the cat world. FECV is more common in dense populations / living situations of cats. This includes things like catteries, which are breeding situations, shelters where litter boxes are shared, highly dense foster populations where there's a foster home and lots of cats are sharing the same litter box, and less commonly, densely populated feral colonies that a common poopy ground is shared. That was very scientific of me. That is what happened with Britta. So when we got Britta and Aussie in, they came from a colony that all the cats seemed to use one area that smelled horrific to go to the bathroom in. So that's likely where they got it from. Hello. Look at Katja, she's all alone. She's all alone. There's no one here beside her. And actually, a study conducted in a shelter in California showed that a large majority of kittens that were coming into their care actually were positive for shedding of the feline coronavirus prior to intake, essentially. So it's a very common virus. A lot of kittens and cats are exposed to it. And just because you are exposed to the coronavirus doesn't mean that the cat will actually develop FIP. So let's get into that. The infection cycle of the feline coronavirus looks a little bit like this. A cat will use an area that has been exposed to the virus via another cat who shed the virus in their feces. They will use the bathroom there. They will go to lick and clean themselves. They will ingest the virus will infect their gut, and then they will also shed the virus in their feces. And that cycle will continue. Hi. It's fairly simple, it's fairly straightforward. The complexity comes when we enter FIP. So whenever you have DNA or RNA that is replicating, especially rapidly, like in cancer cells, or in this case, in a viral infection, there is a high likelihood that mutations will occur. Now, some mutations are harmless to the host, meaning that the mutation may happen. It may cause the virus itself to not work, not function. It will cause it to be more infection prone. Hi, baby. She's so lonely. I'm so lonely. I have nobody for my own. Whenever you have DNA and RNA replicating in, there is always room for error. And the more replication you have, the more chances and opportunities there are for an error to occur. We call these errors mutations. Now, there are what we call mutation hotspots in DNA and RNA, meaning an area within the sequencing, super sciencey, that is more likely, more often than not, to become mutated. If any spot within the DNA or RNA is going to become mutated, it's highly likely that for whatever reason that area is more likely to mutate than other areas. And then there's other what are just going to be random mutations just kind of elsewhere, and that is not considered a hotspot. A majority of mutations actually lead to nowhere. It can cause the virus itself to, call it quits. It can cause the virus to not be able to replicate anymore, But some mutations actually make things worse. And that's what we see here with the feline coronavirus mutated into the FIP virus, or FIPV. In the case of FIP, the feline coronavirus mutates during replication, and because of the type of mutation and what happens next, it gives rise to the FIP virus. Unlike the feline coronavirus, the FIP virus does not generally only infect the GI tract. Don't quote me on that, still learning. But rather more readily infects the immune cells of the animal, like monocytes and macrophages. So once the FIP virus infects the immune cells, it is then dispersed throughout the body via the circulatory or the blood system. So your white blood cells and your red blood cells all live within your circulatory, your blood system, and if a virus infects one of those cells, it now can go wherever those cells go. These immune cells then begin to start attacking the various organs like the digestive system or the brain, and these attacks give rise to the disease that is FIP. Although past reports do state that FIP transmission between cats is very low, meaning horizontal transmission between cat A and cat B is low, there's actually been some other studies that reported that transmission rates are actually a little bit higher than previously thought, and that infected cats of FIP can actually infect other cats within the house, meaning that some of that virus was likely shed in the feces and was taken up by other cats, and those cats were susceptible to the FIP infection. Now, there are two types of FIP. One is the wet and one is the dry form. The wet form is just what it sounds like. There's fluid that starts to accumulate in the abdominal and even sometimes the thoracic cavity. If we look here at Britta's initial, I was gonna say Instagram post, but that is not correct, initial x-ray, we can see that her belly makes like this outward protrusion, and it's very hazy, meaning you can't really distinguish the different organs. It's very difficult to tell what's going on in there. And that usually means that there is fluid within that belly. You can also see in this side x-ray here, in her thoracic cavity where her rib cages are, there is fluid actually pushing on her lungs, meaning that she was having difficulty breathing. And that is something that absolutely happened. Here's the video of her when I got very concerned and made that initial vet appointment. She could not breathe well. There's also the dry form, and those cats do not have that typical distended belly and fluid buildup. Because of its complexities, FIP is very difficult to diagnose and is usually the result of ruling everything else out. Because of Britta's blood work and her x-rays, 3 different vets highly suspected FIP in addition to the pneumonia she had. So rather than take a risk, we went on ahead and sought out treatment. Now, treatment just 6 years ago wasn't really a thing. FIP was essentially a fatal diagnosis. Rarely any cat survived, and it was horrible. But about 6 years ago, a drug came out on the market, the black market, because it is not currently FDA approved, that actually started to show promising signs of being able to treat and cure this disease. The problem was each course of treatment was around $8,000 to $10,000, which is a lot of money. But in the years since, it has become more affordable and more accessible. Mostly. It's still rather expensive. It's still between $40 and $50 per vial, and depending on the size of your cat, you'll go through a certain number of vials throughout the treatment. So to treat both Britta and Aussie, we used about 30 vials of the FIP drug, and that came out to be between roughly $1,200 and $1,500 for both girls, given the price range. It ended up being a little bit more expensive than that. It probably was closer to $2,500 to treat both girls, because they each had to have vet appointments, they each had to have x-rays, and they each had to have multiple rounds of blood work during their treatment. So it's still relatively expensive, but it's definitely not what it used to be. And hopefully it'll become more affordable because of what I'm about to tell you. So currently there is a study going on at UC Davis that is actually looking into this particular drug as a treatment and cure for FIP. This drug itself is not currently FDA approved, which is why you cannot get this drug from your veterinarian and why they won't recommend it. But hopefully with some research and some promising results, we'll be able to see that change over the next few years. Science and getting drug approval is a very slow process, so we kind of have to bear with the system. And until then, I have linked some resources in the comments for you to check out if you have a cat that has been diagnosed with FIP. And, oh, Katja's going to the bathroom. So for 84 days, both Britta and Aussie received their FIP injections. It was difficult at the start. And the injections really only got worse with time because they knew what was coming, and it was just not a great experience for all of us, but we made it through. They made it through their 84 days of treatment at the end of December, and they have currently been in observation since then. So the treatment is 84 days of treatment and 84 days of observation. And if they make it through the observation period without any other clinical signs of FIP reemerging, that means they are considered cured. They're considered free of the disease. Is there a likelihood that the disease will come back? Yes, that's always a possibility. But a lot of the cats that have gone through treatment and have been essentially cured of the virus, they have shown promising results and have lived for years and years and have had no issues. If for some reason during this observation period it does come back, we will simply just put them back on the treatment and continue another 84 days and then reassess after that. But hopefully we are done. And hopefully that would mean at the end of March / beginning of April, we can start looking for Britta and Aussie's forever home. And they can finally be adopted a little over 6 months after coming into my care. So yeah, I hope this helps demystify FIP just a little bit. It is still a pretty mystifying disease in itself. There's a lot of things that are known, there are a lot of things that are not known. It's still being studied, but hopefully this can help you understand it a little bit more. I know I didn't get into a lot of the details of what the disease looks like and what it actually does internally, and that's because I'm not comfortable talking about it because I still don't fully understand it. So I'm not going to share that information because I don't want to say anything wrong. But if your vet has diagnosed your cat with FIP, I highly recommend you check out the link below. If you are interested in any of the studies that I talked about, I read a couple articles that I will also link down below. They're basically reviews of the virus itself, and so they link a lot of other articles. It's a very great and interesting read if that's something that you want to check out. If not, I totally understand, not for everyone, but that's why I'm here, to help break it down for you. If you have any questions, I guess you can leave them in the comments below. I'll see if I can help. Remember, I'm not an FIP expert. If you have questions regarding your cat and FIP, please check with your veterinarian. They're gonna know more than I do about this stuff. I am just a science nerd, just reading the research and trying to understand it myself. Okay, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I will see you on the next one. It's almost a crime that we haven't seen Britta in this video. Because here's Oscar. Oh, you're not Oscar. Silly me. Let's go find Britta. Britta! Oh, she's sleeping in her little cave. My little love. Hi, Britta. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to disturb. Hi, Oscar. Okay, my friends. Goodbye.